Did you know that a simple morning motion, one that takes less than 15 seconds, can become a dangerous trigger and even fatal for people over 60, especially if you take medication for high blood pressure or the heart? It sounds exaggerated, I know, because it's something you do on autopilot. You wake up, open your eyes, sit up, and stand, a movement as old as your routine itself. And that's exactly why it's so treacherous. Nobody stops to think about it. Nobody brings it up in a rushed 15-minute appointment. Nobody warns you that at a certain age, with certain medications in your bloodstream and your body still asleep in the morning, that tiny act can turn into a silent game of Russian roulette. And the worst part, many times the first sign looks harmless, a quick dizzy spell, a brief blackout, a weakness that passes in seconds, and you chalk it up to normal aging. But it's not, and that's where the danger lives. Because this kind of risk doesn't arrive screaming. It arrives quietly, it arrives in the bathroom, the hallway, the bedroom, when no one is nearby. It arrives as a fall. And for an older adult, a fall can be the beginning of a serious chain of events. A fracture, surgery, hospitalization, loss of mobility, cardiovascular complications, and in some cases, tragic outcomes. Now I want you to follow this story closely because it could be the story of your father, your mother, your grandfather, your grandmother, or you. His name was Harold, 71 years old, the kind of man people look at and think, that guy will live to 100, healthy, active, disciplined. He walked every day. He was the kind of patient any doctor likes to see. He didn't ignore guidance. He didn't do crazy things. He didn't live in excess. His labs were within what you'd expect. His blood pressure was controlled. His cholesterol was under control. He took his medications faithfully for years. And he had something rare, a positive attitude toward life. You know the type, someone who gets older but stays present, sharp, with a spark in the eyes. That was him. Every morning, Harold did the same thing he'd done for decades. The alarm went off. He opened his eyes, sat up quickly, swung his legs off the bed, stood up, and walked to the bathroom. From start to finish, about 15 seconds. He didn't think. It was automatic. It was life happening. On a Tuesday morning, early, his wife Elaine called in a panic. Her voice was shaking. "Ben, he's on the bathroom floor. I don't know what happened." When the cardiologist heard that, he naturally thought the worst. Heart attack, stroke, a serious arrhythmia. But when Harold arrived at the hospital, the surprises started. The initial test didn't show a heart attack. The EKG didn't reveal an obvious dangerous rhythm. The blood work didn't suggest an infarction. There were no classic signs of stroke. And yet, he had fainted. He had fallen. He ended up on the floor. What if he'd hit his head? What if he'd been alone? What if the fall had broken his hip? That's when you realize danger doesn't always show up with a neat, obvious diagnosis. Sometimes danger shows up as a fall, a faint, a body that couldn't adapt to what it has always done. And that's when the cardiologist, with over 2 decades of experience, asks the question that changes everything. What was your morning like right before this happened? Because the heart doesn't live in isolation. The body is a system, and there are situations that raise the risk of a sudden drop in blood pressure right after waking, especially in older adults and in people taking certain medications. Harold didn't become fragile out of nowhere. He stepped into an invisible zone where small variables add up. And when they add up, what used to be harmless becomes dangerous. What happened to Harold has a name: orthostatic hypotension. Remember that term. It can save someone you love. Orthostatic means related to standing up. Hypotension means low blood pressure. So orthostatic hypotension is when blood pressure drops significantly in the first minutes after you go from lying down to standing. And this is not rare. Not a 1 in a million thing. Studies show it affects about 1 in 5 adults over 65. 1 in 5. Think about that. If you're in a room with 20 older adults, statistically, 4 of them may have this problem to some degree. And many don't even know because they don't faint every day. They don't fall every time. Sometimes it's just a mild dizziness, a quick darkening of vision, a moment where the body doesn't lock in yet, and then it passes. They grab the wall, breathe, and keep going. And that's exactly how this risk hides. Now, why is the morning so dangerous? Why does it seem worse right when you wake up? Here's what most people ignore. In the morning, your body is in transition. You've spent hours lying down, resting, with your cardiovascular system working in one mode. When you stand up, your body has to switch fast into active mode against gravity. But with age, that adjustment isn't as fast. And if you take blood pressure medications or certain heart drugs, that adjustment can become even more delicate. Add the mild dehydration that's typical overnight, and you've got the perfect setup for a pressure drop. Think with me. During the night, you go 6, 7, 8 hours without drinking water. Many people, especially over 60, avoid fluids at night so they don't have to get up to use the bathroom. That makes sense for comfort, but the body pays a price. You wake up with less circulating blood volume. The blood becomes slightly more concentrated. Circulation has less fuel to keep pressure stable when you change position. On top of that, the thirst mechanism becomes less sensitive with age. So many older adults don't feel thirst the way a younger person does. They don't notice they're dehydrated. They only notice the effects. And one of those effects can be a drop in pressure when they stand. Now add medications. Many blood pressure drugs and some cardiac medications have peaks and valleys in the body. There's a period when the medication level is higher and a period when it's lower. That lower period is sometimes called a trough, when the effect can be at its minimum. For many people who take medication at night, that trough can happen in the early morning hours. And then you get a dangerous irony. The time your body is naturally most vulnerable can be the same time your medication is offering the least coverage. It's not that the medication is bad. It's that the body's timing and the medication's timing don't always match perfectly, especially in older age. And there's another crucial factor, the autonomic nervous system. This is your body's autopilot. It controls things you don't think about doing: blood pressure, heart rate, vessel tightening, quick reflexes when you change position. In a younger person, when they stand up, this system reacts in 1 to 2 seconds. It tightens the blood vessels in the legs, slightly increases heart rate, adjusts pressure, and you don't even notice. In older adults, that reflex can be slower, not necessarily because they're sick, but because it's a change that comes with aging. And those extra 2, 3, 4 seconds are exactly the window where dizziness happens. It's the window where the body hasn't compensated for gravity yet. It's the window where the brain receives a little less blood for a moment. And in some cases, it's the window where fainting occurs. Now, I want you to visualize what happens physically. You're lying down. Blood is distributed relatively evenly. The heart is working without fighting gravity the way it does when you're upright. When you stand up fast, a significant amount of blood, roughly 300 to 800 milliliters, about 1 to 3 cups, tends to drop into the legs because of gravity. That's normal. What's not normal is the body failing to compensate in time. If the brain gets a few seconds of reduced flow, you feel dizzy. Your vision darkens, your body weakens. And if the drop is big enough, you simply pass out. Not because of drama, not because you're weak, because of physiology. And here's the cruel detail. Many people don't fall in the bedroom. They fall on the way. They stand up and start walking because they think it's just wake up and go. And it's during that quick walk to the bathroom, the kitchen, the hallway, that the fall happens because the body is still trying to stabilize pressure while you're demanding movement, balance, coordination. And when the brain gets slightly less blood for a moment, balance fails, and the fall comes. And in older adults, falls are not no big deal. A hip fracture can change a life. A head injury can be extremely serious. A wrist fracture can seem minor, but can steal independence, hygiene, feeding yourself, using a cane. A fall in an older adult is not just an accident. It's a high-risk event. You might be thinking, but I've been getting up fast my whole life and nothing happened. Yes, and Harold did too, for decades. The point is, risk changes with age. At 40, your body compensates so quickly that the vulnerability window is almost zero. At 60, 70, especially with medications and dehydration, that window opens. And once it opens, an old habit carries a new risk. That's what people don't understand. It's not that you were wrong to get up quickly at 30. It's that at 70, the same gesture has a different weight. And what makes this even more dangerous is that many times it won't show up on standard ER tests. A person faints, goes to urgent care, gets an EKG, blood tests, and everything looks normal. Then the doctor says, "You're fine, probably just a little episode." And the person leaves without a clear explanation. But the explanation is in the routine, in the timing, in how they stand up, in the body's morning state, and if nobody asks, nobody finds the cause. That's exactly what happened with Harold. He was discharged the same day because the tests were okay, but the risk was still there, ready to happen again. And the second time could be worse. Harold only got lucky because someone asked the right questions. His daughter Christine worked in healthcare. She visited him and started investigating his mornings. She asked what time he took his medications. She asked whether he drank water upon waking. She asked how fast he went from lying down to standing. She asked whether he ever felt dizzy. And Harold, like many men his age, minimized it, said it was nothing, it passed quickly, he didn't want to make a fuss. But the body doesn't care about pride. The body gives signals, and when you ignore them, it repeats the signal louder. Now, here's the most important part. The fatal mistake the cardiologist highlighted is simple, direct, and sitting inside your routine, getting out of bed abruptly, going from horizontal to vertical before your cardiovascular system has time to adapt. That's the core of the problem. And the solution, as simple as it sounds, is powerful precisely because it creates a transition. It gives your body's autopilot time to respond. It prevents that sudden pressure drop. It reduces the chance of dizziness, fainting, and falls. And here's the rule you need to store as a life rule. If you're over 60, especially if you take blood pressure meds, heart meds, diuretics, or anything that can affect pressure and heart rate, you should not get out of bed like you're 25. You need a transition routine. And that is not weakness. That is intelligence. That is protection. That is preventing a disaster that could be avoided with 1 minute of patience. Now imagine the difference between 2 mornings. In the first, you wake up, stand in seconds, and start walking. The brain hasn't got an ideal blood flow yet, pressure drops, you get dizzy, take 1 wrong step, and fall. In the second, you wake up, breathe, move your feet, sit on the edge of the bed, wait a minute, take a sip of water, and only then stand. Which one is more likely to keep you safe? Which one protects your independence? Which one avoids a trip to the hospital? The difference isn't luck, it's method. And why can this tiny adjustment be the difference between a normal day and an emergency? Because when you reduce orthostatic hypertension episodes, you reduce falls. And when you reduce falls in older adults, you reduce fractures, hospitalizations, surgeries, and cascading complications. You're not just avoiding a dizzy spell. You're protecting your life as a whole. You're preserving your ability to walk, live independently, stay autonomous. And autonomy in older age is priceless. 1 fall can steal that. 1 fall can turn an independent person into someone who needs help with everything, and many families have seen it happen. Now let me tell you a truth people don't like. It's not that nobody told you because the information doesn't exist. It exists. The research exists. The problem is it doesn't become a conversation in the doctor's office because the visit is short, because the doctor is focused on labs, prescriptions, blood pressure targets, medication adjustments. And topics like how you get out of bed seem too small. But too small doesn't mean irrelevant. It means forgotten. And the cost of being forgotten can be huge. So if you're hearing this now, you've received information many people only learn after a fall. Treat it like gold, because this is real prevention. Prevention isn't only tests and pills. Prevention is routine, behavior. Respecting how your body works in this stage of life. If you're over 60 and you've ever felt any of these when standing up, a quick dizzy spell, vision dimming, sudden weakness, needing to grab the wall, don't ignore it. Don't label it normal. It can be a sign that your body is struggling to stabilize pressure during that transition. And even if you've never felt it, if you take blood pressure or heart medication, it's still worth adopting this change. Because the goal isn't to wait for the problem to show up, it's to prevent it. And here's what the cardiologist made clear. A 30-second to 1-minute pause sitting on the edge of the bed can be the difference between a peaceful life and a serious scare. That pause lets blood redistribute, lets the autonomic system tighten vessels, lets the heart adjust, lets pressure stabilize before you face gravity all at once. It's a simple transition with a massive impact. Now think about the domino effect. A fall can cause a fracture can require surgery. Surgery in older adults raises complication risks. A long hospital stay raises infection risk, clot risk, muscle loss. Muscle loss raises full risk again, and the person enters a cycle. All of this can start with 15 seconds, with standing up too fast, with an automatic routine, and all of it can be prevented with 1 minute of calm. That's why this matters. This isn't fear, it's realism. And there's more. Orthostatic hypertension isn't only a fall risk. Repeated episodes of lower brain perfusion, even small ones, over time can be associated with higher risks for the brain and the heart. It's not something to dismiss. When the brain gets less blood repeatedly, that's not free. And when pressure drops suddenly, the heart must compensate. For some people, that compensation can trigger palpitations, discomfort, and in vulnerable cases, more serious events. That's why this topic needs to come out of the shadows. Now I'm going to ask you something directly, and I want you to answer in your head honestly. Have you ever stood up in the morning and felt that empty feeling in your head? That mild dizziness that makes you lean on the wall for a second? That sensation that your body took a moment to click in? If yes, your body may be warning you. And if you know someone who keeps saying, in the morning, I get dizzy when I stand up, send this to them. Because many people assume it's normal and keep going, until one day it doesn't pass so quickly. The truth is, the fatal mistake is common because it was built over decades. You learned to get up fast because you had to. Work, responsibilities, routine, the mind links getting up fast with productivity. But the body in older age doesn't respond the way it used to, and productivity isn't worth a fall. Speed isn't worth fainting. Stubbornness isn't worth a fracture. So starting today, you need to trade haste for intelligence. You don't need to change your entire life. You just need to change the first minute of your day. Because that first minute, for many people over 60, is a vulnerability zone. And a vulnerability zone requires strategy. And now I want to end with a simple invitation, because this isn't content you listen to and forget. It's content you apply and share. If you've ever felt dizzy standing up quickly, tell me in the comments. Not to expose yourself, but to show others they're not alone, and to turn this into real awareness. And if you've never felt it, but you're over 60, or you take blood pressure or heart medication, comment, I'm changing my routine. Because a small change today can prevent a scare tomorrow. And if you have someone in your family over 60, send this warning to them. Send it. Because for many people, the day they'll need this information is tomorrow morning. And I'd rather they have it before, not after a fall. And please, if you want more content like this, direct, practical, with truths nobody explains properly, subscribe to the channel. Because the goal here isn't to scare you, it's to protect you. It's to bring into the light what gets buried between the lines of rushed appointments. And if this video made you rethink your morning, then it already did the most important job, stopping an automatic habit from becoming a preventable tragedy. If tomorrow morning you wake up and before you stand, you remember this and decide to sit for 1 minute, you'll already be doing something that could save your life. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm telling you what medicine sees when this goes wrong and how simple it is to prevent it from going wrong.